The desert sun burned like a living furnace, baking every inch of Fort Resolute's tarmac until the concrete shimmered. The air smelled of jet fuel, scorched metal, and sand that never seemed to settle. Dust devils spun lazily between rows of helicopters, their rotors gleaming like dormant predators waiting to wake. At the far edge of the flight line, near a line of sleek Apaches, she stood, a figure almost invisible in the chaos. Her name, at least the one most people knew, was Sophia Vale. To them, she was just another mechanic, a civilian contractor, some assumed. Others didn't even bother to ask. Her uniform was a plain navy of maintenance staff, sleeves rolled, grease smeared across her gloves, a clipboard in one hand, a wrench in the other, and she wore her silence like armor. Most soldiers didn't notice her at all. Those who did only saw the mechanic, the quiet woman who fixed birds long after sunset, sleeves darkened with oil, hair tied tight beneath a cap. They never looked closer. They didn't see the way her hands moved with surgical precision, as if the Apache wasn't just a machine to her, but something alive. No one asked questions, and Sophia never gave answers. Her file was clean, too clean. No combat badge, no flight hours, no clearance to sit in a cockpit. Her name was absent from every pilot roster. And so the lie was born. She wasn't a pilot. She wasn't even cleared for flight. That was the story everyone believed, because it was easier. Inside the operations building, the air was cool, recycled, and humming with fluorescent lights. Screens displayed flight schedules and maps of the desert training zones. Fresh graduates from flight school leaned against the vending machines, sipping canned coffee and laughing too loudly. One of them nudged his buddy when Sophia walked in. "Look, that's the girl always hanging around the sim bay. Thinks she wants to be one of us." The second chuckled. "She's maintenance. Probably just cleaning the joysticks." Their laughter echoed. Sophia didn't look at them, didn't even blink. She walked past with quiet confidence, her boots striking the tile like metronome beats. She vanished down the hall toward the simulator hangar, the door closing softly behind her. Inside, the chamber hummed with electronics. Screens flickered with combat simulations, Apache gunships tearing across digital canyons. Major Michael Kane, a senior instructor with salt and pepper hair, was reviewing footage with Lieutenant Robert Burke, a hotshot pilot who hadn't failed a single sim in 6 months. On the monitor, Burke's Apache executed a flawless banking maneuver before unleashing a missile barrage on an enemy convoy. Burke smirked. Kane clapped him on the shoulder. Sophia stood at the edge of the room, quiet. It took a moment for Kane to notice her. His brow creased. "Can I help you?" he asked, his tone dry, skeptical. Sophia nodded once, requesting sim time. Kane frowned. "You're not on the roster. You're not even listed as a trainee." "I'm qualified." He raised an eyebrow. "That's not what your record says." Sophia didn't argue. She just waited, calm, steady. Burke snorted, arms crossed. "Come on, sir. Let her try. Could be fun." Kane hesitated. Maybe it was amusement. Maybe curiosity. Or maybe, deep down, a flicker of unease. He keyed the console. "Fine. 2 minutes. Solo engagement. Canyon terrain. 5 hostile targets. No pre-brief. Let's see what you've got." Sophia stepped into the pod. The door hissed shut behind her. Burke leaned closer to Kane, smirking. "What's the bet?" "She crashes before takeoff." "She won't get off the ground," Kane muttered. But then the screen lit up. The Apache didn't just lift. It came alive. Every movement, the pitch, the yaw, the throttle, flowed with instinctive grace. She dropped into the simulated canyon at low altitude, radar pinging with 5 enemy markers. And then she vanished. Kane's jaw tightened. "She's using terrain masking," he whispered. Burke blinked. "That's Tier 1 maneuvering. Where the hell did she learn that?" A missile locked. Fired. Direct hit. Another. Then another. Each strike was surgical precise. 90 seconds later, all 5 hostiles were destroyed. The simulation ended. The screen went dark. Silence filled the room. The pod door opened, and Sophia stepped out. Expression calm, almost indifferent, as if she'd only been checking hydraulics. Kane straightened. "Where exactly did you train?" "I didn't," she said simply, and walked past them. Burke laughed nervously. "She's bluffing." "Has to be." But then he noticed something. As Sophia adjusted her cap, a strand of hair lifted, revealing the faint edge of a tattoo inked at the base of her neck. Not a decorative one. Not something casual. A black insignia. Stark. Silent. A symbol that only a handful of soldiers in the entire army had ever earned. Burke's voice cracked. "Sir, that's not a civilian." Kane didn't answer. He just stared, his pulse quickening. And later that night, he made a phone call. To someone far above his pay grade. Someone who would understand the weight of what he had just seen. Because if that tattoo was real, Sophia Vale wasn't just a mechanic. She was something far more dangerous. The desert winds carried whispers across the base that night. And though no one said her name aloud, one truth had begun to surface. Legends don't stay buried forever. What about you? Have you ever been underestimated, only to prove everyone wrong? Share your story in the comments. Who knows? Your story might be the next one we tell. The desert at night had its own voice. Engines whined. Wind whispered across empty runways. The metallic groan of hangar doors echoed like ghostly warnings. Sophia Vale worked alone, as always. A single lamp glowed inside the hangar, throwing long shadows across the stripped-down Apache she had been tending for weeks. The bird looked skeletal. Rotor blades removed, panels exposed. Hydraulic veins stretched open like a living thing under surgery. Her hands were steady. Too steady. A mechanic's hands? Yes. But also a pilot's. Every motion carried memory, not just knowledge that if anyone had been watching closely, they might have seen it. The way she leaned into the cockpit with the familiarity of someone who belonged there, who had breathed in the smell of gun, oil, avionics, and adrenaline from inside, not outside. But no one stayed to watch her at night. No one except the shadows of her past. In the colonel's office, Colonel Michael Kane sat behind his desk, the receiver of his secure line still warm in his hand. He had just finished making a call he never thought he'd make again, one that pulled at buried files and names written in ink that most had forgotten. His XO, Captain Reynolds, stood across from him. "You're serious, sir? About her?" Kane's eyes were sharp, unsettled. "That mark on her neck. I've only seen it once. Back in Kandahar. A classified task force. Ghost pilots, they called them. Units that weren't supposed to exist." Reynolds frowned. "But if she was one of them, why the hell is she turning wrenches in my hangar?" "That," Kane muttered, "is the question I intend to find out." Morning came hard and fast. The desert sun hammered the base awake, flooding the hangars with heat before breakfast was even served. Technicians moved quickly, prepping birds for the day's flight cycles. Sophia was already at work, tightening the last bolts on tail number 7 Delta. Sweat lined her brow, though she barely noticed. Every detail mattered. Every sound, every vibration told her a story about the bird's health. She had just finished the diagnostics when the hangar doors thundered open. Colonel Kane entered, boots pounding like a drumbeat of authority. Behind him trailed 2 officers, both staring at her like she was an anomaly that had slipped through the cracks. "Sophia Vale," Kane said flatly. She stood straight, wiping grease from her gloves. "Sir, where did you learn to fly like that?" His voice carried no humor, no doubt, just steel. Her green eyes locked on his, calm, unflinching. "I didn't." Kane stepped closer, jaw tight. "Don't play games with me. I've seen rookies, I've seen veterans, and I've seen killers. What you pulled off in that simulator doesn't happen by accident." Silence hung heavy. The only sound was the faint ticking of cooling metal from the Apache behind her. Finally, she spoke. "Sometimes it's not about learning. Sometimes it's remembering." One of the officers behind Kane shifted uncomfortably. Reynolds leaned in, whispering, "Sir, her record doesn't show anything." Kane's gaze didn't break. He was watching her neck, where her hair had shifted just enough for the tattoo to show again. A dagger set between 2 rotor blades, ink faded but unmistakable. He exhaled slowly. "You're Ghost Knife, aren't you?" Sophia didn't answer. That silence was louder than anything she could have said. The briefing call broke the standoff. Speakers crackled to life across the base. Recon team has gone dark. Sector Ridge 19. Possible comms failure. Possible hostile engagement. Technicians froze mid-motion. Soldiers glanced at each other with unease. Recon teams didn't just go dark. Kane's face hardened. He turned sharply. Which Apaches are operational? A sergeant barked back. Only 2, sir. 7 Deltas prepped, but awaiting clearance. The others are grounded for maintenance. Sophia spoke before anyone else. 7 Delta is flight ready. Kane didn't even glance at her. I'll find a pilot. Her jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Inside the colonel's office, chaos brewed. 2 warrant officers argued. One hadn't flown in 6 months. The other had collapsed during heat training. Voices overlapped. No one wanted to admit the truth. They didn't have a pilot. Not one who could pull this off. And that's when Sophia made her choice. She walked back into the hangar, slipped into the cockpit with the ease of memory. Her hands moved across the switches, flipping them in a rhythm she hadn't touched in years, but had never forgotten. The bird came alive. Systems humming. Displays glowing. Her breath caught when her hand reached the auxiliary panel. For a moment, hesitation flickered. Then the collar of her jumpsuit shifted, revealing the tattoo fully. Staff Sergeant Daniel Booth, a logistics vet passing by, stopped dead. His eyes widened. Ma'am, where did you get that ink? She adjusted her collar. Does it matter? Booth didn't answer. He ran straight into Kane's office. Seconds later, Kane stormed out, eyes sharp and burning. When he saw her sitting in the cockpit, checklist signed electronically with a call sign that hadn't been spoken in years, his voice dropped. What the hell is this? Sophia looked at him calmly. You needed a pilot. The bird is ready. Kane froze, searching her face. Then Booth leaned in, whispering something in his ear. Kane's color drained. His voice lowered, almost reverent. Is it true? You flew under Colonel Draper? In Taji. Sophia didn't answer. She didn't need to. Kane turned to his officers. Get this bird in the air. Now. She leads. Follow her call sign. The name slipped from his mouth like a ghost returning. Ghost Knife 6. The rotors thundered, biting into the desert air. Heat waves rippled across the tarmac as the Apache lifted smoothly into the sky. Soldiers, who had never given Sophia Vale a second glance, now stared in stunned silence. The mechanic had become the pilot. No more than that. A legend reborn. And somewhere beyond the mountains, in a valley where smoke was beginning to rise, lives depended on what she was about to do. Legends always come back when they're needed most. If you were the colonel, would you have trusted her to fly or kept her grounded? Tell me in the comments. I want to know what you would have done. The turbine screamed as Sophia's Apache clawed into the air. Rotors tore through the desert silence, blasting dust into spirals that whipped across the tarmac. Soldiers on the ground shielded their faces, watching in stunned disbelief as the woman they thought was nothing more than a grease monkey pulled the war machine into perfect formation. Colonel Kane's voice crackled in her headset. 7 Delta, you are lead. Locate recon team. Rules of engagement clear. Neutralize any hostiles. Recover survivors if possible. Her reply was steady, calm. Copy, Colonel. Ghost Knife 6 airborne. The name struck the comms like thunder. A call sign, whispered in rumors, buried in redacted files, suddenly alive again. The chase helicopter scrambled to follow, its nervous pilot fumbling through altitude checks and torque readouts. Sophia's voice cut through the channel, controlled and unshakable. Form on my 6. Staggered. Radio silent unless you see muzzle flashes. She didn't just sound like a pilot. She sounded like someone who had lived too many lifetimes inside the cockpit. Below her, the desert blurred into rust-colored streaks. Jagged rock outcrops rose like broken teeth, the Apache knifing low between them. Every control responded as if the machine remembered her hands. Pitch. Yaw. Throttle. The bird wasn't resisting her. It was breathing with her. The chase pilot lagged behind, panic seeping into his voice. 7 Delta, terrain too tight. Recommending climb. Her response was ice. Stay low. Use the ridges. SAM teams won't waste a missile on shadows they can't lock. There was no hesitation. Only command. She cleared the final ridge and saw it. A thin smoke column rising in the valley below. A Humvee sat crippled beneath the shale overhang, its comms gear shredded, its tires blown. No movement. No voices. But the valley itself was a trap. One way in. High ground flanking both sides. A perfect kill box. Sophia throttled back, the rotors thumping heavy, slow. Thermal optics snapped on. Her display glowed with heat signatures. 3, 4, maybe more. Moving through scrub brush, rifle slung, converging on the pinned-down Humvee. She keyed a private channel. Chase 1, orbit high right. Cover my egress. I sweep. The young pilot's voice cracked but firmed. Copy. Ghost Knife 6. Even he was using the name now. She rolled left, tail kicking, and dropped the Apache into the bowl of the valley. The rotor wash shredded the smoke column, scattering it like ghostly mist. The enemy scattered too, surprised by the sudden thunder in their kill zone. One fighter tripped over his own rifle stock as the first burst from her 30mm cannon ripped the ridge behind him to shrapnel. Short, precise bursts followed. Not wildfire. Not panic. Surgical. Each shot collapsing rock ledges, pinning fighters before they could aim. Her voice cut through the commnet. Team Havoc radio check. Static. Then, a broken reply. Tukia. 1 wounded. Tires shredded. Can't move. Sophia's jaw clenched. Her voice lowered. Sit tight. I'm bringing you home. She flared, hovering just above the Humvee, rotors hammering the valley. Her crew chief leapt from the side door, sprinting under the deafening storm of dust and gunfire. Sophia's eyes never left the scope. 2 heat signatures moved for a technical parked at the valley mouth. One swung a heavy machine gun onto its mount. Her cannon pivoted. 3 short bursts. The technical's engine erupted in flame. The gunner vanished in a bloom of dust and fire. Her crew chief's voice cracked in her ear. Package on board. Popping smoke. Purple haze blossomed downwind. Sophia pulled collective. The Apache clawed skyward, torque peaking, fuselage vibrating as if straining against the desert itself. Hold tight, she murmured, not to her crew, but to the bird. To the machine she knew better than her own heartbeat. The chase helicopter fell in behind her, its bay carrying bloodied survivors. 5 minutes later, the mountains broke open. Fort Resolute shimmered in the distance, a mirage made real. Behind her, smoke curled skyward from the destroyed technical, the battlefield still burning. Ahead, medics sprinted across the landing pad, shouting orders, stretchers ready. Sophia circled once, then dropped into final approach. The Apache touched down soft as a whisper, rotors winding down with reluctant growls. The crowd gathered immediately, mechanics, pilots, infantrymen, drawn by the roar they had heard echo across the valley minutes earlier. Colonel Kane pushed through them, helmet tucked under one arm, his face unreadable. Sophia unstrapped, climbed down, boots hitting the tarmac with the weight of finality. She didn't look at the crowd. She didn't need to. Kane stopped 2 paces short. His eyes fell to the tattoo, sweat-streaked and dirt-smeared, still visible at the curve of her neck. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then his voice, quieter now. I flew with a Ghost Knife once. Helmand Province, 2009. Saved my platoon. Sophia met his eyes. Calm. Steady. That pilot taught me everything I know. Kane nodded slowly, a gesture of respect, not command. Around them, the murmurs swelled. The mechanic was no mechanic. The ghost had returned. And every soldier on that flight line understood one truth. The base had a new lead pilot. Or maybe she had always been the lead. Legends don't ask permission. They simply take the sky back. If you were pinned down in that valley, would you trust a stranger, someone everyone else dismissed, to save your life? Or would doubt have killed you first? Night fell over Fort Resolute like a velvet shroud. Floodlights hummed across the flight line, casting the Apaches in hard shadows. Their blades glimmered under the moonlight, like swords laid to rest after battle. Inside Hangar 3, Sophia Vale sat alone. The day's grease was still smeared across her gloves, though her mind wasn't on the machines anymore. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but memory. She set the wrench down. The sound echoed too loud in the empty space. Her eyes drifted toward the far corner, to that locker. It was older than the others, reinforced. A dent on the side from years ago, a scar no one else noticed, and a heavy lock she hadn't touched in nearly 8 years. For weeks, she'd walked past it, ignored it, pretended it wasn't there. But tonight, after flying again, after the crowd stares, after hearing Colonel Kane whisper the call sign that was supposed to be dead and buried she couldn't look away, her boots echoed on the concrete floor, each step slower than the last. When her hand touched the lock, her breath caught. Outside, voices carried down the corridor. Colonel Kane was back, his tone sharp, commanding. "Where is she? I want answers now." Corporal Diaz, the young mechanic who had once joked about her grease-stained hands, answered nervously. "Sir, she didn't override the system today. She corrected it. Saved the bird. Ask the tech chief. She's the reason that engine didn't cook mid-flight." The colonel's footsteps thundered closer. A door slammed open. Sophia didn't flinch. She was waiting for him, standing straight-backed, her posture no longer civilian. "Vale," Kane barked. "I heard you disarmed a lockout. Who authorized that?" "I did." "You don't have that authority." Her voice was calm, steady, like a blade sliding free of its sheath. "Your checklist would have cooked the turbine. Ask your tech chief if you don't believe me." Kane froze. His jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed. "I wrote that checklist 12 years ago." Sophia stepped to the side, reached into the locker, and pulled out a sealed folder. Its corners were bent, paper yellowing, but the insignia on the cover, faded though it was, still bore the emblem of a division so classified most officers had never even heard of it. She handed it to him. Kane opened it. Inside, her original DD 214 discharge papers. Honorable. Pilot designation. Cleared for black zone operations. And beneath it, something more. A redacted CIA contractor record. Entire paragraphs blacked out. Only her call sign remained. K-93. Kane's face drained of color. "That's not possible." K-93 vanished in 2017. Sophia said nothing. Instead, she lifted the edge of her collar, revealing the tattoo in full. A raven, wings folded. Beneath it, a line of binary etched in black. Kane took a slow step back. By then, others had gathered in the hangar doorway. Word spread like fire through dry brush. Mechanics, junior pilots, even grizzled infantrymen leaned in, whispering. Diaz spoke first. "Sir, we looked her up. Her name's not in any military database." "Of course not," Kane muttered, still staring at the tattoo. "She wasn't supposed to exist." He turned back to her, his voice breaking between anger and awe. "Why are you here, Vale? After everything, why come back to the dirt and the grease?" Her eyes softened for the first time in days. "Because someone has to keep these birds alive. I thought I could do it quietly. Thought maybe I'd left the sky behind." Kane's voice cracked, softer now. "After Kandahar? After Seoul? You just walked away." Her jaw tightened. "I didn't walk. I was shut down, erased." The silence was heavy, broken only by the distant thrum of another helicopter cutting across the night sky. And then the radio burst to life. A frantic voice. "Mayday, mayday. Apache down. Training op compromised. Tails on fire. Requesting immediate landing clearance." Kane's head snapped toward the comms. Every available pilot was either grounded or inside a simulator. No one was in the air, except for one bird. The one Sophia had rebuilt piece by piece with her own hands. Her voice cut through the chaos. "Let me fly it." Kane shook his head. "You're not cleared." Her eyes locked on his. Steady, sharp. "Neither is that bird. But I'm the only one who knows how she breathes." The room froze. Every soldier, every mechanic, every whisper silenced in that moment. Kane hesitated, just for a heartbeat. Then, slowly, he extended a helmet toward her. The choice was made. Hangar doors rumbled open. The desert wind roared inside, carrying the heat, the grit, the tension of everything that had been buried for nearly a decade. Sophia Vale stepped forward, helmet under her arm, the tattoo no longer hidden. And for the first time since she'd vanished from the world's memory, Ghost Knife K-93 walked toward the waiting Apache. Every eye followed her, every breath held. And the next moment would change everything. Sometimes the past doesn't stay buried. Sometimes it takes flight again. What do you think? If you carried a secret that could save lives but cost you your peace, would you reveal it? Or would you stay silent? The desert burned with the sound of war. Sophia Vale's Apache roared low across the canyon floor, her rotors tearing at the night. Behind her, the chase bird struggled to keep formation, its pilot's voice jittering across the comms. Ghost Knife 6, enemy contact. 2 technicals moving to intercept. RPG spotted. Her reply was calm. Too calm. Stay on my wing. Don't climb. We use the shadows. Tracer rounds cut the darkness. Muzzles flashed from the ridgelines. The valley lit in bursts of white fire, rock splintering, dirt exploding into the air. Sophia didn't flinch. She dipped the Apache low, skimming so close to the canyon floor that her rotors kissed the stone. Target right ridge, she murmured. Her cannon barked. Rock shattered. The fighters scattered like ants. The chase pilot whispered into the comms. Jesus, who is she? Far behind, Colonel Kane watched from a command tower, his fist clenched around the railing. Officers crowded around the monitors, staring in disbelief at the live feed. Sophia's call sign pulsed across the screen. Ghost Knife 6. A name long thought buried. A name the Pentagon had erased. And yet here it was again, alive, etching itself back into history. The valley opened, revealing the downed Apache, its tail section aflame, crew pinned inside. Enemy trucks circled like wolves, their heavy guns ready to finish the kill. Sophia didn't hesitate. Her voice was a blade. Chase 1, orbit high. I'll clear the pit. She rolled left, diving into the kill zone head-on. Her cannon spat fire. Short bursts. Precision. Trucks erupted into flame, silhouettes thrown against the night sky. Fighters scattered, some firing blindly, others breaking into a panicked run. She hovered low, rotor wash whipping the flames into wild banners. Crew of down 1 status. A weak voice cracked through static. Too alive, trapped we can't. Copy. Hold tight. Her co-pilot leapt from a side bay, sprinting through the inferno toward the crippled bird. Sophia kept her eyes locked on the ridgelines, fingers dancing across the controls, cannon swiveling, daring anyone to move. And then a roar. A missile lock warning screamed across her HUD. Heat signature. Left ridge. Missile incoming, the chase pilot cried. Sophia banked hard, pulling the Apache into a brutal climb. The missile streaked past, detonating against stone, shaking the canyon like thunder. Her teeth clenched. Not today. She kicked the tail, rolled, and dropped the bird back into the canyon floor, using the walls themselves as cover. Her cannon answered. 3 bursts. The launcher vanished in smoke and fire. Package secured, her crew chief shouted. 2 wounded but alive. Bored now. The men dragged themselves into the bay, bleeding, half-conscious. The Apache shuddered under the sudden weight. Smoke out. Purple haze spiraled into the wind. The signal. Sophia pulled collective, engines howling as the Apache clawed skyward once more. The chase bird fell in behind, its pilot breathing hard, whispering prayers he didn't know were live on comms. The valley shrank beneath them, smoke curling upward like ghosts rising from the earth. When they broke the ridge, the base shimmered ahead, floodlights bright against the desert night. The pad was chaos, medics rushing, ground crews shouting, every soldier craning to see the impossible. Sophia throttled back, easing the Apache into final approach. The bird touched down soft, deliberate, like a landing rehearsed 1,000 times in silence. The crowd swarmed as the wounded were lifted out. But no one looked at them first. They all looked at her. Sophia Vale climbed down, helmet tucked under her arm. Sweat streaked her brow. Dust clung to her collar. The tattoo at her neck glistened with heat and memory. The crowd parted. Colonel Kane stepped forward, eyes locked on her. For a heartbeat, the base was silent. Then he spoke. His voice wasn't command, it was respect. From this day forward, Captain Sophia Vale is reinstated to flight status. Led on Apache operations. Anyone with objections, his gaze swept the soldiers. Take it up with me. No one moved. No one spoke. Because everyone had already seen the truth with their own eyes. Weeks later, her name was no longer whispered. It was spoken with reverence. Not Sophia Vale. Not Ghost Knife. A new name. Echo. The Pentagon reinstated her call sign, a ghost brought back from redacted files. A name that appeared in footnotes of after-action reports, tied to missions that had never officially happened. Echo. The pilot who didn't exist, until she did again. One evening, she walked the tarmac alone. The sun dipped low, painting the Apaches gold, their blades silent, their shadows long. She didn't climb in. She only stood there, silhouette against a dying sky, listening to the silence she had once tried to live inside. A voice came from the shadows. You still fly, Vale? She turned. A man stepped forward. Civilian clothes. A familiar face she thought lost in Kandahar. His eyes shimmered with memory. Only when I have to, she said softly. He smiled faintly. Then I guess the world's lucky. Because for you it's always. And he walked away, leaving her standing under the slow blink of the tower beacon, alone, but no longer hidden. Legends don't retire. They wait. Until the world needs them again. What about you? Do you believe true skill and true courage can ever really disappear? Or do you think legends, like Echo, never fade, only wait?